What's up, everyone? It's F from barstarzz. I'm here today with Lulu, and today we'll be going over shoulder injuries. Me and Lulu both had one, and we'll be talking about prevention and some things you could do if you already have a shoulder injury.
Yep.
First thing you should definitely do is consult your doctor and use that advice in coordination with whatever you hear today and evaluate it and see if it's the right decision for you. How did you get injured?
Well, honestly, it's a very long string of events, but I'm gonna keep it short for you. Basically, I've been doing calisthenics for 3 years. You have to understand that. So I am not a gymnast. I don't have gymnast conditioning. I don't have any of that. So people like me should anything be working harder in order to strengthen their foundation before they even get into any intermediate or advanced movements. Stupid me, you know, I got muscle ups, I got this, I got that, I got handstands, whatever. Start feeling some shoulder pain, you know, take a little bit of time off of it because, you know, the stuff that we do is pretty strenuous, but you think it's no big deal, whatever. Fast forward, you're now getting back into your overtraining while you're still trying to nurse this injury, and that's where injuries occur because you need to pay attention to your body. You need to listen to it, not only to the doctors and what they say, but what your body is saying, because if you're not supposed to be doing any pulling exercises, what are you doing still trying to do max out 22, 25 pull-ups, you understand?
So you felt like your problem was that you were overtraining or progressing too fast, or both?
I feel like I worked my way well with my progressions. The problem was that I also didn't inform myself enough about warming up, getting myself ready, and strengthening what's your inner foundation, because exterior is one thing, but interior is actually more important. That's your core, that's your joints, that's your flexibility. Those are the things that people can't see, but are actually more important, if anything. So,
but you can't tie it down to one particular movement that hurt you.
I would say overall, going hard 5-6 days a week, freestyling on top of having a labor-intensive job, and then, you know, not paying attention to my body the way I should. And then, you know, you add in, you know, maybe a day or two where you don't eat as good as you know, everything factors in. If you don't eat all day, but you trained all day, what are you really doing? You didn't gain anything. So
you pick up heavy stuff at your job?
Yeah, it's very strenuous. That's actually where the injury probably ultimately occurred, because I lifted something overhead, and that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, or shoulder, whatever. But basically, yeah, like, you know, it was just a long string of events between overtraining, not paying attention, my job, cold weather, bad eating habits, all of that. Everything factors in. It's like you have to pay attention to everything.
And so what was the process that you went from the first time you seen the doctor? So,
well, you know, like I said, stupid me, I got to the point where it was just like, I have to see the doctor, but you should never get to that point. I did. I went through the x-ray, and then after that, the MRI, because obviously the x-ray showed up nothing. At first, it actually showed...
Wait, real quick. So the first appointment you went, the first thing he did was refer you to x-ray?
Correct, yeah, they actually did the x-ray that day. They examined, you know, they do an examination on your shoulder, lift this, lift that,
and
the pressure.
The x-ray only really shows the bones, right?
Correct, yeah, so that's only gonna factor in anything like structural, like a joint or a bone, but it's not, and more times than not, a shoulder injury is actually gonna be with the muscle and not with the joint. So more times than not, you probably should get the MRI regardless. Even if you did show something in the bone, it might be even further. So MRI is always recommended.
And the test the doctor had you do, was he able to give a general idea?
It's basically called a shoulder impingement test, and what he does is he puts pressure on areas where you're not really, like, your rotator cuff has 4 different parts. I am not intelligent enough to give you all 4 parts, but I am going to explain that there are 4. Your rotator cuff is like a ball and joint, like a pen. It rotates. So there's 4 different parts that you could tear, the labrum being one. Supraspinatus is where I tore mine, so top right here. As you rotate your shoulder, you get impingement. So let's say if he put his arm here to push my arm down, and then I'm pushing my arm up, if I'm feeling an impingement, which is a pain there, or a lack of mobility or motion because of pain, then there's a problem there, because that should not occur. So if weight is being pushed down on me and I'm putting my shoulder up, something's wrong, so you need to stop.
Did you fail that test?
I failed that part of the test, and it was showing that there was in my supraspinatus, which is what ultimately led to the MRI.
What does the test mean? Like, what's a failed test? So it hurt, or you're just not able to push back?
I can push back, but I can push back with an extreme pain right in that motion. So at whatever top scapulated point is where I felt the injury, and not where I shouldn't be, because, I mean, you shouldn't feel a little bit of pressure giving you that much, like, extreme pain. So right there, you know something's off. On top of the fact that, you know, shoulders feeling vulnerable.
All right.
things
So you
like
get the
that.
X-ray, nothing's wrong. So then the next, you go back to the doctor, he refers to MRI.
Yeah. So,
So what does the MRI like point out specifically?
basically, it shows a tear in the muscle or a tear in the cuff or anything. My specific experience, the first time, which was 4 months prior when I started feeling the pain, I actually showed no tear, just that there was a lot of inflammation in my shoulder. So I took the time off. So I took about like a month and a half, no strenuous workouts. But this is the problem. After that month and a half, I went back and it was like, you know, I was just going back into my regular routine, like trying to do my 5 to 10 muscle up warm up and then my 150 push-ups, 150 dips, all that. And that's what the problem was, because not only did I already get myself to the brim and then fall back, but now I'm just training like I'm back on that brim. Fast forward 2-3 months later, a winter happens, a strenuous job, boom, straw broken, camel hurt.
So now, so you
The
realize
second
you have a cuff.
MRI is basically what showed the final tear. A 5mm tear for me not taking care of it, for me not paying attention to the fact that I shouldn't be lifting things too heavy overhead at the job and things like that, and that's what ultimately tore my shoulder indefinitely. So I have a 5mm tear. As far as I'm concerned, as far as doctors, as far as every book I've ever read, it'll always be there. The only way that it'll recover or regenerate is if I were to inject stem cells, which is something that I don't personally like consider an option. So it's just something that I, for the rest of my life, will have to maintain, work on, warm up, everything in order to build strength on top of that. So
What did your doctor say when you found out that you had a tear? What was his advice or suggestions?
no working out at all.
Ever?
No, not ever, but he definitely told me that I should fall back on doing any type of advanced activity, gymnastics, any of that. And if you know anything about me, that's my lifestyle. So right then and there, I shook my head.
He said it for lifetime or for a short?
I shouldn't be doing it. I shouldn't
Ever.
be doing it anymore. Anything that you're putting too much weight on the shoulder, blah, blah, blah. The 5mm will get bigger, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, I listen to myself, I listen to my body, I read my own books, I pay attention, and I choose the course of my own life. So that was not an option. I read, I did what I had to do. I regenerated my shoulder to the best of my ability with resistance bands, with rehabilitation exercises, with prayer. And to be honest, like for now, this rotator cuff is stronger than it ever will be. It will always be an issue, but I'll always maintain that issue.
So what have you changed since after you realized you had the tear and educating yourself to before? What's new in your training?
I just train smart. Like I've always trained hard, but now I train smart as well.
Specifically, the names and stuff.
Specifically, every workout that you just saw me doing, the workout videos that we just recorded, basically I need to open up my shoulders. I need to open up my hamstrings. Everything is prone to injury because of so many things that I've acquired over time in my 3-year calisthenics career. I need to open up my shoulders. I need to do these dynamic stretches to be able to push my shoulders back. If anything, because of my injury, I needed to increase my flexibility in my shoulders, because that's the only way that I'm going to continue pushing it past the point. Not to mention the fact that over time, you know, as I get older, this cuff will ultimately turn into some type of arthritis. So in order to prevent that, I need to continue conditioning my flexibility.
Like, what's the time frame you spend warming up before exercise?
I stretch 30 to 45 minutes every single day before I even train. I train for about an hour and 15 to an hour and a half.
Dynamic stretching.
Yes, dynamic stretching like the ones that I showed. And then I'll do my hour and a half routine, and then afterwards I will static stretch. And then at the end of my day, I will foam roll and then static stretch again. And that's what ultimately I feel is where I progress in my flexibility. So I train strength, and I train flexibility, and I train mobility. All three versus before when I used to just train. That's the difference.
And how do you feel as your progress? So how long ago did you realize you had rotator cuff and tear?
I started feeling pain about 6 to 7 months ago.
And now, would you say you're maybe not 100%, or are you 100%?
Definitely
what percent
not.
would you
I'll
say you're
never be 100%. I'll always be, I guess, 85 to 90.
But the best you felt in years, or since the injury?
As of right now, for whatever reason, I don't know if just diligence or just maintaining just my overall training and whatever, and just staying focused, but I'm stronger now than I was before.
Do you feel pain in your shoulder as you do some of the movements?
Every single day.
So,
yeah, for sure.
Even after the warm-up, you still feel pain?
After the warm-up is a lot better. The vulnerability is what it is. I wouldn't consider it like a sharp pain anymore, but it's a constant vulnerability. My shoulder will always click. It will always feel a certain type of way. It will always feel like I should maybe lean onto the left, more to the right. But that's what you work on. That's why you work on your foundation. That's where you work on your structure.
Last two questions for me. What advice would you give to someone who's worried about getting a rotator cuff injury, and what advice would you give to someone who already has a rotator cuff injury?
If you are worried about getting a shoulder injury, then you probably are doing too much or too many activities where you're constantly feeling a pain afterwards. Like if you're the type of person that just freestyle, just did a whole bunch of muscle ups, and then your elbows and your shoulders are hurting the next day and the day after, you're not telling anybody, but you're just recording and watching your videos and going like, oh yeah, I did that. Then you should be already doing all the exercise that I'm doing. And I'm telling you this because I'm the person that didn't do it. So you should be.
Hindsight is 2020.
Hindsight is 100%. 2020, you always have to be able to listen to yourself, listen to your body, and paying attention, because that pain means something. It's not just like, oh, I went hard. It's like, oh, I did something, or I might have done something. So number one, in order to prevent, warm up. Do what you have to do. Work on your progressions. If you got 20 push-ups, get 20 clean push-ups. Don't do a muscle up and mess it all up and mess your shoulder up. That's how you don't go. Like 540s are one thing. Anybody could do a 540. It's a lot harder to do 60 clean muscle-ups, or 60 clean push-ups rather. And you need to pay attention to your body. You need to realize that what's happened to you is not the end. If anything, it's only the beginning. It's a learning experience first and foremost. Everything that happens is for whatever type of reason. Just keep praying, keep pushing. I know it's very difficult as far as like, sitting on your couch and doing the stuff that you don't want to be doing, or just not doing anything at all. Inactivity is incredibly depressive to me, but you just have to keep holding on. You have to work on what you can work on. You have to keep focused, and you just have to keep the tunnel vision to what you want. If you see a goal, at the end of it, there's no such thing as the end of what you just started. Like, it's only the beginning. You're just only seeing the end point. And my end point for me was getting back to what I needed to do, and that's what I did, and that's what I continue doing. If I fall down again, I'm just gonna get back up and think the same way. So tunnel vision and nothing else.
How long did you rest after you had the injury?
I did not work out for 3.5 months. I did not do one push-up, one pull-up, one dip for 3.5 months. After the first 2 months is when I finally picked up the resistance bands and started doing the workouts. And even that, I was doing it on a slow rehabilitative form, and I worked up my way from band to band. So I started with like a 5-pound band, 10-pound band. I was giving high fives to all the old people at the rehab center. Like, I was doing all that, you know what I'm saying? So like, sometimes you have to just stay patient, just stay focused. It sucks, but it's all part of the process, because one way or the other, you just push yourself if you want to. I know I wanted to, and there's no other option. So
now you can do muscle ups, handstand push-ups, and a lot of other skills that people with full healthy shoulders.
My main thing was just that I'll never be able to handstand again, and that was just not acceptable. It just was not acceptable. The minute the doctor said it, I shook my head. I told him no. I laughed in his face, and that's it. I just read a whole bunch of books on how that's not the case, and that's it. I did not take no for an answer. I never take no for an answer. So for me, I knew that I needed to get back to handstand, so that was my main focus, and that still is my main focus.
Thank you guys for watching. As always, drop a comment if you want to learn more about Lulu's case. Instagram account is in the description, and appreciate you guys' support. Click the bell for the notifications. Peace.